Hi guys, this is Nimsh and welcome to my tutorial video for Flesh and Blood. So this is the card game I discussed, and this is going to be my only video where I actually talk about the basics, and this is for you if you've never heard about the game, if you want to learn about the game and basically are just curious, like, what is this card game? Like, is it fun? Is it cool? What are the rules? So in this video, I'm just going to explain the basic rules. I'm just going to take you through a starter deck, kind of like the deck that I personally use to learn the game, learn the basic mechanics, and I hope it's going to be fun. I hope after this video you will understand how to play Flesh and Blood, and if you're interested into exploring this card game, then definitely give it a try. So before I even start talking about mechanics, let's talk about Flesh and Blood and what it is. So it's a card game, as I've mentioned already. It's developed by Legendary Story Studios, LSS in short, which is a New Zealand company created specifically to develop this game. James White, the owner, I believe, the inventor of this card game, he had a very rich card game history, and he was developing this game for many years. And then after he was done, he started this company, I believe, to basically deliver the game. Game is 2 years old now, and is I would say very successful because new card games are always dangerous. They can fall at any moment. You never know, are they fun? But this game has survived the pandemic. It's been around. It's currently on a sixth set, I believe, or seventh set. So the card pool is pretty good. I think it's a really good time to start. There should be a new set coming out very soon as well. Has limited play, has all you need basically, and there hasn't been a world championship yet. So it's actually picking up in the West now, and the US and Europe. There's big tournaments with great turnarounds and 600 plus people, nationals, great organized play with $1 million prize pool. So like a lot of good stuff. But I mean, if you click on the video, you're already interested. So that's that. A quick word also about what are you seeing right now. So this is a tabletop simulator, TTS, which is an amazing software that you can play a lot of different games in. And you can play Flesh and Blood for free. For now, it's I'm not sure about legality of it, but I mean, I personally used it to play a lot, and this makes me play the game because I'm able to practice with friends online, and then I are able to play tournaments with physical card games. So this actually makes me being very interested, and that's why it's also for me. It's easier for me to show you how this game works in TTS specifically. So let's start. We're starting with Ira. Ira is a hero, Ira Crimson Haze, and overall the game is a hero-based game where you start with a hero of a specific class, and then you have a deck of cards that you build from the existing card pool, and you also start with pre-existing equipment. So there's like a lot of equipments printed, like swords and shields and whatever, and you choose your equipment, armor obviously as well, that suits your class, and you start your game with it. I won't show you equipment yet, it's on the left hand side, because I quickly wanted to go for heroes and classes. Obviously, classes are very different. So this one is a ninja, which was very interesting because it's a fantasy setting. I do love my Japanese stuff, so ninjas were great, and actually they introduced me to the game and made me stay because I wanted a deck that is, sneaky with tricks, many attacks, a death of 1,000 cuts. That's definitely how those decks work with ninjas. But you have your own like guardians to block things. You have brutes, which are like barbarians, wizards, obviously very sneaky classes. Many cool classes, rangers, and they will keep adding classes to the game. So this game is more like your class will get added in the future. It's kind of like, it's not a game where it's very hard to add a class. Their design is to keep adding classes, and I want to go through all of them. There's a lot of great introductory videos. Actually, if you are interested more into some introductory stuff, then definitely check the website, the official website, fabtcg.com, which is fabtcg.com. They have a welcome section with a lot of great videos, some of them done by my buddy Noxious, and there's a couple of great content creators as well, Steelfor, who did like a lot of intro videos for different heroes. But that's that. Let's talk about mechanics. How do you play this game? So in this game, the important thing is you are a hero, you have equipment, you have weapons, you have your deck, and you have life total. And obviously, as in other games, you just need to get your opponent's life total to 0 with weapons, spells, different stuff, and your opponent is going to try to do exactly the same thing. And how do you do that? So if we look at Ira Crimson Haze here, she has an ability which says your second attack each turn gains +1 attack. So it's a passive, which means every hero does have a hero ability, some kind of a unique thing that makes their deck special, something that does change how you build the deck for them. She's a ninja. She's a ninja hero young, which means that this is interesting as well. This game has 2 modes right now. Actually, more modes, but like 2 constructed modes. One is called Blitz with younger heroes that are just starting their journey, who have more like less health. And then there is competitive constructed or constructed competitive, CC in short, which has older heroes, like heroes that are matured. They are very powerful. And one of my favorite examples is Levia. So when she's starting, she is a girl that just ate a demon. So she's slowly getting corrupted, and she's just, a young version of herself discovering her powers. And then the older version is her already turned into a full-fledged almost demon. So there's like always a story towards every hero. And Ira, interestingly enough, doesn't have an older version yet. She only is available in the younger version. And Ninja class has, again, a couple of different heroes in that specific class, which means if you get Ninja cards, you will be able to mix and match through different heroes rather than just be stuck with one specific hero. Enough of that. She has a nice ability, buffs the second attack each turn. You have 2 more stats here. So you have the health, which is on the right-hand side. It's a 20. In Blitz, which is the faster, easier format, something that I recommend starting in, 20 is the benchmark. And some heroes have a bit less than 20. Wizards, specifically, very powerful class with a lot of powerful spells. One of the wizards has 15 and the other has 18, I believe. Some of the ninja heroes have less health as well because they are a bit more powerful, a bit more explosive. So they're punished by the power level. The power level is regulated through loss of health. And then the 4 on the left-hand side is your hand size. So let's talk about hand size for a moment in this game, and also how does the flow look like, more or less. You start with 4 cards in hand. So it's not 7 like other games, it's a 4. There's no mulligan, so when you draw your first 4, you have to just deal with it. You have to do the best you can with it. And then after you spend your cards, you draw up to 4 cards at the end of your turn. So it's in your interest to use your 4 cards that you started with to draw a fresh 4, which is a very interesting dynamic because this game does actually incentivize you to spend your cards, to do fun stuff, because you are gonna refill at the end of the turn, so you want to spend your stuff, you want to spend your cards. And Intellect 4 is actually standard, and I believe all the heroes currently in the game have 4 Intellect, which is the blue circle on the left hand, but you can modify it with spells or cards, which will allow you to draw a bit more at the end of the turn, which will obviously make your turn even more powerful. So that is our hero and the 2 stats they have, the intellect, the health, and also like the power that is in there. So now what do you fight with, right? So Ira does have a weapon. It's a Harmonized Kodachi. Obviously, again, many weapons to choose from. This is the one that Ira usually chooses because it's the coolest, works the best. So Harmonized Kodachi has 1 attack on the left-hand side. On the bottom, there's just 1 attack. It's not too much, but it's okay. It's 1 attack. So the ability says once per turn action, there is a red dot attack. So red dots, they symbolize resources or mana or whatever, money you need to pay to play the attack. So let's call it resources from now on. You need 1 resource to attack. And then there's an ability, we'll ignore it for now. So how do you get mana, right? How do you get resources? So you have to, there is no mana that you get every turn. There is no lands that you draw into that you have to play to get mana. You get mana for using your cards in your hand. So I will just get 1 card from the top for now, just to show you. So this is a card that you have in your deck. It's called Whelming Gustwave, and let's look at all the corners, starting with the top left. On the top left, you have 3 dots. This is the free resources that this card will give you if you play it as a resource giving card. It's called pitching. So if I play this card here, it will give me 3 resources. So I got those resources. Amazing. But what I can also do with this card, I can also play it like a card that I have in my hand to get its effect. And it has 1 attack on the bottom left. So I can just play this card and attack for 1. I don't have to pay for it because if you look at the top right, it has a cost of 0. So the top right will always be how much the card costs. The left-hand side will be how much it will give you resources when you pitch it. And on the bottom left, it's like 1 attack, so how much it will attack for. But also, there is the shield on the bottom right, which means that you can also use this card to block an upcoming attack. So I can either pitch it to get 3 resources, I can attack for it, maybe it costs and I will have to pitch something else to pay for it, or I can also block with it if my opponent attacks me with an attack. So this is the beauty of this game. Each card you have in your hand, and you have 4 every turn because you draw up to 4, allows you to have those amazing lines of you deciding what do I block with, what do I leave for my turn to attack with, and what do I use for mana, right? With regards to free resources, there is only 3 to 4 options. So Whelming Gustwave is the best because it's gives free resources. Cards also give 2, 1, or 0. And there is a different pitch color, so different stripe on the top. This one is blue, but there is also yellow for 2 resources and red for 1 resource. And I believe there is kind of colorless for cards that do not pitch at all. Also, the same card, Whelming Gustwave, will have different versions. So not every card in the game has a different version. A higher rarity cards are usually locked to just 1 copy of it. But Whelming Gustwave is a common card. So there is a yellow Whelming Gustwave, which has gives 2 resources if pitched, but has a higher attack. And there's also red Whelming Gustwave in the game, which just gives 1 resource if pitched, but has 3 attack. So supposedly in your deck, you can have many copies of that same card, but with different pitch values to make your deck more stable, which is pretty cool. All right, so we do have our Kodachi. Actually, Kodachi is a 1-hand weapon, which means you can play another Kodachi because you have 2 hands as Ira. So we'll play 2 Kodachis, and it's possible. A lot of weapons are 2-handed, so you just need to decide how you basically assign your weapon to your class. Guardians have usually either a 2-handed weapon or 1-handed weapon and shield. Wizards usually use a 2-handed staff. So there's different weapon combinations you can use. So how would my turn look like? And for now, I would usually have 4 cards in hand, but let's just assume we have this Whelming Gustwave. And I would like to attack with Kodachi. So to attack with Kodachi, I need to pay 1 to attack with it. So I'm going to attack with my Kodachi, and I'm going to pay 1 because I pitched Whelming Gustwave, which gave me 3 resources. So going down to 2 resources, attacking for 1. Now my opponent has an opportunity to decide, does he want to block or not block this Kodachi for 1? And my opponent feels like, yeah, it's 1, whatever, it hits. If he says it hits, then damage is dealt, 1 damage taken, going down to 19. And now the thing is, in this game, you only have 1 action point. So in theory, you can do only 1 thing per turn with your 1 action point. You cannot do an infinite amount of actions. You just need to do 1 thing per turn. But there's ways to gain additional action points or just go again in a way. So the ability is called Go Again. I kid you not. It's basically, if we look at Kodachi, there is this line: if you have a card in your pitch zone with cost 0, Harmonized Kodachi gains Go Again. So Whelming Gustwave, fortunately, this deck is built this way. It's it's been a setup. Whelming Gustwave, top right, cost 0, perfect, which means our Kodachi triggered an ability that if there is a 0 cost card, Kodachi gets Go Again, which means we can literally just go again. Our action point is not lost. Go Again works in a way that if Go Again was like the trigger was there, we can have an action point again. So we're gonna attack again with another Kodachi. So we're gonna attack here. It's gonna cost 1. So this Kodachi attacks again, and it will again have Go Again. I'm gonna say again many times in this video. So the fun thing is, Ira, I'm not sure if you still remember, but your second attack each turn gains +1. So this is the second attack this turn, which means this Kodachi attacks for 2. Our opponent is like, yeah, still fine, I'm gonna take it. So he takes 2, but has an ability to block if they want to. But for the sake of this tutorial, they won't. So we hit with both of those attacks, and we still have 1 mana left. So, and we have go again, so we can still do things if we have cards, right? So let's imagine we have this card. And this card is Whelming Gastwave. Actually, let's not have Whelming Gastwave. Let's put it here somewhere. I wanted to have this. So this is Torrent of Tempo. Torrent of Tempo, there's already a couple of differences from the Whelming Gastwave we've just seen. So first, there is a red stripe, which means the Torrent of Tempo is a 1 mana card. Like it pitches for 1. So if we would pay with Torrent of Tempo to get resources, it will be just 1 resource. So the red stripe, yellow stripe, and blue stripe is very easy identification of how much mana the card gives you, which is good. And I'm saying mana, resource, whatever. It's, you know, like you get the meaning. The cost of Torrent of Tempo is 1. So this is a difference from Whelming Gastwave. This actually costs to play. So it doesn't cost to pitch. If I would pitch it, I will get a resource. That's fine. And then I can forget about the card. But I want to attack with it. So to attack with this Torrent of Tempo, I need to pay 1. And it's great because we had the 1 remaining. So Torrent of Tempo, the big difference here is its attack is 5. It's a lot. We just attack with 1 and 2, and Whelming Gastwave had just one attack, and this is 5. This is huge. This is a big attack card, right? And you will notice that the cards are balanced in this way that the red cards usually are your attack cards. The red cards will have higher attack value because the power level of a card is very balanced. You will see cards which, for example, will have less defense value because they are very powerful attack cards. If cards gives you a lot of resources, probably ability is weak and attack is weak and maybe defense is weaker. Or if everything is great, then the cost of the card is going to be higher as well. It's not going to be 1, it's going to be 2 or 3 or even more, right? So this is an amazing thing about this game, that not only you can use a card in many different ways. When you have 4 cards, you have only 4 cards, which means you won't be overwhelmed. You won't have 15 cards in hand, 10 cards in hand, and drawing cards in this game is very difficult. So usually you just look at 4 to 5 cards per turn and you try to figure, what is my best line? What's the best situation here to defeat my opponent? So Torrent of Tempo. Another thing I want to quickly point out, look at those beautiful swords as the frame. So this is the ninja frame, and every class has a different frame as well. That is very unique to the class. Like warriors have swords and rangers have an arrow, I believe. So every class has a different framing. So the frame makes it very easy to recognize which class the card belongs to. What also makes it easy is saying ninja action. So it's a ninja card, but the katanas are amazing. I love it personally. So Torrent of Tempo, we play it, we attack with it. If Torrent of Tempo hits, it gains go again. So again, this is a card that if it hits, if it's not blocked, we can continue attacking if we have cards and resources to keep attacking. So this one is a great one to block. So now, on top of it, I would like to reveal the first equipment card for you to see that is an armor equipment, and it's the best equipment piece that Ninja can have. It's called Mask of Momentum. So Mask of Momentum is a legendary card, very hard to pull from the booster pack. You actually, I think, it's a legendary card, and you get a legendary card once per 4 boxes. So those are pretty pricey, and that's definitely one of the downsides of Flesh and Blood. The legendary cards are very expensive, but apart from it, a wonderful card. So what it does, it blocks for 2, so it's additional life you get, it's additional block you get. If your opponent is very aggressive, you can block with Mask of Momentum, and it has an ability called Blade Break, which is unfortunate, which means that if you decide to block with it, you lose it, it's destroyed. So, well, it's a small mask, right? If someone hits it, it just breaks. But there is that option to defend with it. But the main thing why it's very important, legendary and expensive, is that it has a 1 per turn effect. If you hit 3 times in a row plus, then you can draw a card. It has to be 3 times plus in a row. So none of your attacks could have been blocked. And if they block the second attack, it doesn't work because they broke the chain. So you had to hit 3 times in a row. So in this case, we did hit with Kodachi 1, we did hit with Kodachi 2, and now if we hit with this, if opponent doesn't block it, we'll draw a card and we potentially can continue, which makes this setup very, very deadly. So that's the basis of like what the cards do, how you know, how the combat works in a way. I'm going to add a bit more stuff now. So like you have an idea, right? Like you just keep playing cards. Some of the cards you pitch with, some of the cards you block with. Like let's say our opponent blocked this attack with those 2 cards. So they blocked with Whelming Gastwave for free and with Torrent of Tempo for free. So they blocked a total of 6. This attack never hit and our turn ended. We had to like finish our turn. Basically when our turn ends, I'll shuffle this quickly. So our turn ends, we draw 4 cards. This goes to this card because we attacked with it. This goes back. And now we have a fresh hand of our cards. Like we got Enlightened Strike, Rushing River, Crane Dance, and Sigil of Solace. And opponent turn starts. So let's wait here for a moment as well. So our opponent, they used it so the cards are like discarded. Our opponent now has an opportunity to attack us, right? And remember, we draw at the end of the turn. So if our opponent attacks us and we block with this, let's say because it has free block, then they attack us again and we block again with this. It also has free block at the bottom right. They attack us for the 3rd time. We also block. This means that when our turn starts, so like we blocked with all 3 cards, right? They go to discard. When our turn starts, this is it. This is the card we have. This is 1 card. And this card gives free health. So we can play it to get free health. But that's it. We can't attack. We have nothing. We have nothing to attack, right? So the turn cycle actually starts after we finish our first turn. So after we finish our first turn, we draw 4. And now our opponent attacks. And you have to really think hard. Do I block or do I just let everything in and respond with my 4 cards in my hand? Because if I block with everything, I have nothing to do, right? And then they draw 4 cards and they keep attacking. And if we keep blocking, like we'll just eventually just die. So this is really cool. Like in many cases, like in this actual deck, you just block with 2 cards and you keep 2 cards to attack. As you could see in the first turn, like we had this very cool, like we just needed 2 cards, right? We needed Whelming Gastwave for mana because this is 1 mana, 2 mana, and we needed a Torrent of Tempo to attack for the 3rd time. So it's completely fine to block with 2 cards and then leave 2 cards for offensive. But you will need to, like, you know, try it with yourself with your decks. Like some decks, aggro decks, for example, they literally just never block and they just use all the cards to attack. Control decks, for example, they do use only 1 card to attack because they usually have a weapon. So they use 1 card to attack with the weapon, like a hammer or something, and they block with 3 cards. So this is a very fun dynamic there. Let's talk about other card types. So you've seen the ninja attack action, right? So you know that if a card has an attack in the top, in the bottom left, then it is an attack card. And you've seen me use the Sigil of Solace, which is a generic instant. So look, the border here is different. It's a generic border. And this card, it says a generic instant on the bottom, right? So on the bottom says generic instant. Very interesting thing about this card, there is no attack value and no defense value. So not only it's definitely not an attack card because no attack, and it doesn't say it's that card. It's an instant, so you can play it whenever. There's also no block. So you cannot block with this card at all. You can just play it and gain free life. So instants are available in this game. There's not too many of them, but they are available. I have a couple of other card types here, and I feel Sigil will be there as well at some point. So this is Plunder Run. So this card, let's look at the bottom. It's a generic action. Again, it's not an attack card, so there is no attack value. And this is a very easy distinction. All attack cards will have an attack value. There is no card that has no attack value. Important thing, some cards will have an attack value of 0 because they can potentially be buffed. I'm actually not sure if there are 0 attack cards, but but they can. And then if they have 0 attack, but it's still on the card, they can attack. But if the card has no attack, it cannot attack. Same with block. If a card has 0 block, it can block. The block can be buffed. But if it doesn't have a block value like Sigil of Solace on the bottom right, no block value, you cannot block with this card. So, Plunder Run. Plunder Run is an action card. So you basically, whenever you have an action, same as Kodachi stuff, you can just play it and effect goes into play. This card is pretty fun because it does buff your attack +3, and then it also allows you to draw a card if your attack hits. And I think this is the time where I can also explain what an arsenal is. So let's quickly read Plunder Run. The next time an attack action card you control hits this turn, draw a card. That's pretty simple. Whenever you hit with the, let's say, we played it before the Torrent of Tempo. If Torrent of Tempo would hit, it would draw a card from Plunder Run, and it would draw a card from the Mask that we showed a moment ago. The second line is, if Plunder Run is played from Arsenal, the next attack action card you play this turn gains +3. Go again. So what is Arsenal? So at the end of our turn, if we have cards left in hand, we can decide to stow away one card and place it here. This is a field that's called an arsenal. So we can place one card. We place it face down. Our opponent doesn't know what it is. But what it does for us is that at the end of the turn, we draw up to 4. Which means if we are left with one card, and if we don't put it to arsenal, we will just draw 3 cards, right? Up to 4, because we already had one in hand. But if we put a card in arsenal, and you can put only one, you do draw 4 cards. Which means that next turn you will have a 5-card hand because you have 4 cards. This is 6 now. So you will have 5 cards. So you will have an arsenal card and 4 cards in hand. And 5 cards is massive. Like, this game allows you to do much more with 5 cards because you have more resources, you will have more attacks, you will have buffs, and you will have a lot of cool stuff, right? So Arsenal is amazing. The only problem with Arsenal is I cannot pitch from Arsenal. So if this would be my Whelming Gust Wave and I wanted to have my turn the way you've seen it, I cannot put it from my Arsenal to my pitch zone to get resources because I can't pitch from Arsenal. The other problem with Arsenal is I cannot defend from Arsenal. So if they attack with their Whelming Gust Wave, I cannot defend with my card from Arsenal to use its defense value of 3 because Arsenal card is not a card in hand, it's a card in Arsenal. So there is that difference. But as you can see, there is nice stuff because some cards, they do interact with Arsenal, like this Plunder Run. So if I play this card, this Plunder Run from my Arsenal, and you can play cards from Arsenal. So that's the main thing you do with them, you play them. So I play this Plunder Run, and then because I played it from Arsenal, it triggers the second effect, which will buff my attack +3. So my attack will be bigger. So in this case, like if I played Torrent of Tempo, my Torrent of Tempo would be buffed by the Plunder Run, so it will go up to 8, which is great. So that's basically how Arsenal works. I won't go too much into details here, but yeah. And now the Plunder Run, remember, it's not an attack, it's an action that is not an attack action, it's just a generic action. Cards can be also actions per class, so there can be a ninja action, guardian action, whatever. Another thing that's very important is that what happens with this Whelming Gust Wave? We pitched it, right? Like what's now? Like you see, I discarded some cards. The cards I used for attacks, the cards that I used for blocks, they get discarded. They don't go back to your deck. But the cards you pitch, they do go back to your deck, which means they go back to the bottom, on the bottom of your deck. So let's send it to the bottom of our deck after the end of turn. So after we finish our turn, when we are almost ready to draw, where we decide when to put which card to put to Arsenal, the pitch zone, the pitch stack, it goes back to your deck. And as the beginner, it doesn't matter. It's whatever. Just like place your cards in the bottom. It's fine. But the depth there is that your deck has only like 30, 35 cards left, right? A couple of turns and you will actually start reaching your pitch zone. You will start reaching, you'll start going to see the cards you pitched in the second cycle of the deck. And this adds so much depth, especially with the control matchups, because you can literally stack your deck legally. And if you remember what you pitched, you will know exactly what you're getting. And it's amazing because with this, you can really plan your turns ahead. Maybe in the beginning of the game, your best attack, it wasn't a good time to play your best attack. in the deck, right? You felt like your opponent has a lot of defense, they have a lot of equipment, so you want to play your best attack as a finisher to win the game, right? So you actually pitch your best attack. Let's say Torrent of Tempo, which we had somewhere in there. It's not the best attack, but just imagine this is our best attack, right? Instead of attacking here with Torrent of Tempo, we pitched it. So it goes on the bottom of our deck. So now we know that it's a 31st card, right? We draw 4 cards per hand, so it goes pretty per turn, so it goes pretty fast. And we know the Torrent of Tempo is now close to be drawn. So we plan for that turn, right? Maybe we want to buff Torrent of Tempo as well, so we pitch a buff. So we basically stack it. So one hand we get, we'll get an amazing hand, and we'll probably catch our opponent off guard. They will not know we're getting that hand, and we'll just win the game right there, right? So this is a really cool, like, in-depth strategy. I'll probably talk about it later, not in this video, in other videos, but pitch stacking is a fun concept. Let's quickly, before we wrap up, let's quickly look at other card types. So we have defense reactions, attack reactions, and instant. We talked about it. So instant was like the easiest one. Instant you just play whenever, and it has an effect. Can draw a card, can gain life. Whenever you have priority, you can play instants. But it's basically almost every time. So instants are whatever. The important thing is attack reactions. So attack reactions, defense reactions. So those cards can only be played during the combat phase. And I will quickly explain how it works. So Razor Reflex, for example. Razor Reflex has an effect that it buffs an attack of a dagger weapon or sword plus 3. And the second attack doesn't matter for now. So if we attack with a Kodachi, then stuff happens in this order. So we declare an attack with Kodachi. We pay for it. Opponent declares a block. Let's say they have 1 health. So let's quickly edit it. They're at 1. Our Kodachi attacks for 1. They block for 3. They feel like, it's fine. I have free block. I'm going to survive this. So we attack, they block, and now we have an opportunity to play an attack reaction because we are the attacker and we can buff stuff. So we decide to play Razor Reflex as a buff to our weapon, which is plus 3, which means Kodachi goes to 4. So 4 minus 3 is 1, which means this is lethal. This would win us the game if they don't have a defense reaction. Because after this step, after we already showed the attack reaction, they cannot just say, oh yeah, sorry, but I wanted to defend with more. I also had this plunder run, so it will be 5 instead. That's already too late. I'm sorry. You cannot defend with the cards after defense step is done. But you can have a trick, which is a defense reaction. So it says on the bottom of the card, generic defense reaction. So defense reactions can be played as your combat tricks while the combat is on. So this would save him. There is a very nice effect to sing below. You may put a card from your hand on the bottom of your deck. If you do, draw a card. So basically you play it, and then you can put a card from your hand on the bottom and draw a card to filter your hand. And it blocks for 4. Defense reactions are amazing because they usually block for 4. So if they don't have it in hand, they lose. If they have it, they will survive because they add additional 4 defense with the thing below, and that will block that attack, right? Additional cool thing is that because you can play cards from your arsenal, as I mentioned, defense reactions are not viewed as cards that defend, but are more cards that are played to add defense. So defense reactions are an amazing thing to have in arsenal because you can play them from arsenal to add that defense if you are defending from your opponent. So that's I think that's it. Like probably a couple concepts I missed. I can show you like some of the other equipment that is here just to show you what you have. You basically have a helmet, you have a chest item, you have gloves of some kind of or arms, and you have your shoes. There is many different equipment in the game. You can pick and choose. You can, like if there something is expensive, you can choose a cheaper one. You have on the, just to talk about TTS a bit more, so those are obviously life counters. We have the tokens here as well, very easy to get. Like, I'm not sure if there's any interesting tokens that I can show you. I guess Quicken token. So yeah, so there's different cards that create tokens. So for example, a Quicken token is something that is created by a card. The card says create a Quicken token. And then this allows you that your next attack action that you play, or attack with a weapon will have go again, right? So this is great if your Kodachi didn't get a go again, you can maybe play something that will give you a quicken token and then attack with Kodachi to get a go again. So attack something attack something after the Kodachi attack. And yeah, that's been it's been a longer video. I think you you get most of the concepts. Again, many cool videos on the internet, and I myself will try to focus on more advanced concepts because I've been playing this game for half a year now, and I definitely want to talk about some in-depth strategies. So if you're into Flesh and Blood, a lot of great content creators out there to introduce you to the game. And I will be focusing myself more on the meta game, the current like pro play and in-depth stuff. I think the only problem this game has right now is it's really expensive. It's really expensive. It's the legendary cards are very expensive, and there is also rarity that is called Fabled, which is even more expensive. Not necessary to play, but it sucks if a card is very expensive and you can't get it and you want to collect everything. But apart from that, game is great. Like the mechanics, everything is super fun. Starter decks are fun, so I can wholeheartedly recommend it. And that will be it for today. So if you like the video, let me know in the comments. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. I'll try to respond. Yeah, enjoy Flesh and Blood. Have fun. See you guys.